We're doing Iron Mario Chef again. This is video 9, and if things go well, unless I have some new idea, maybe someone else suggests a great idea, this might be the last video in the series, at least for this semester. There's reasons this could be really good to convert to a WPF project, or perhaps especially an ASP project. You know, a web page that people could visit to get randomized Super Mario Maker parts. That'd be pretty cool, right? Should do that. But that's more of a NetD 3202 thing, and this resource is being prepared mostly with NetD 2202, which I'm teaching this semester in mind. And so there's going to be some stuff going on here. I've already made a few changes. I think I've pushed them. It shows changes on my screen, actually. But this is going to be the part where we implement lists. The week 7 topic in NetD 320 or 2202 was object-oriented programming, and we did that 2 videos ago. And the week 8 and 9 topic is collections, and we use a lot of lists in our collections unit. There's no reason for me to use a stack or a queue in this particular project or any other exotic collection types. So lists. Lists are easy to work with. They're a lot like arrays with no bounds. And so in many ways, they're a little more foolproof. And they are commonplace in a lot of programming. It's not that arrays are not without their uses. They certainly are. And there are still arrays in this project. I've made a couple of changes in the part class. I made it so that all the lists of the individual game parts are lists. And I have to tell you, I've wrestled with a lot of the decisions made in this program because I thought it would be cool. Once I switched the list of parts to just being a list, I kind of thought anytime I get a random part, I can check if that part is in a compatible game style. And then I don't need to keep a list of all the game-specific part styles. And that was only done for the sake of demonstrating arrays. But then I kind of thought about that, and I was like, as long as this amount of storage is static and not very big, it'll be way faster to just keep these lists of parts and not need to do that query every single time. So I made some design decisions, and you can agree with them or disagree with them. I think they're at least okay. But it's possible for a programmer to refine even a simple project like this for a lot of iterations. And so I did change things to work with a list of parts. A lot of this stuff ends up looking the same as like when it worked with arrays. The only difference being, and you can see it in this part if you're really perceptive, is that I don't need to keep a count for how long the array is, for how many Super Mario 1 parts, Mario 3 parts, Mario World parts. I don't need those values because the array, because a list isn't bounded where an array is. So like before, I needed to declare that array with a specific length and then populate it with parts. There's no need to do that anymore. But otherwise, functionally, it is the same right now. It's the same, and it's working, but we're going to make it nicer. One thing that's always kind of bothered me in this application to date is the reset button is stupid. I mean, the randomize button randomizes everything, and the reset button it sets it to blank. And like, what's the point of that? Just click randomize if you want it to randomize again. And the other thing, personally, is I like Super Mario Bros. 3 as a game style. Aesthetically, and I like the music. There's certain things I like about the other game styles, like I'll make Super Mario World levels, I'll make new Super Mario Bros. Levels if I want some wall jumping in there. There's lots of different features to do with the different games. And the style-specific power-ups are all some of the most interesting things. But I prefer Mario 3, and so sometimes I just want to make a Mario 3 level. So what I'm going to make happen is this control here is going to become a list box. I'm going to change it completely. That means deleting this text box and replacing it with a list box. And then I'm going to add options for every single one of these controls to either randomize that part or lock that part. And what that means is that part will no longer be randomized when you click the randomize button. And then what the reset button will do is it'll reset all the radio buttons. In order to have multiple groups of radio buttons working on this form, it's going to be reconfigured significantly because I'm going to have to incorporate group boxes. Let me do it in somewhat fast motion. Maybe I'll have a voiceover or some fast music playing. Who knows? We'll see. I'll do that right now. I'm starting out by deleting a bunch of controls I don't need. That includes the text boxes, but also all of the labels. The labels only identify the controls, and that'll end up being redundant with the titles I put on the group boxes. I'm setting some properties on the group boxes. True to form, I'm sticking with the same size for every group box, and then I'm copy-pasting it so that those properties stay in. That ends up being actually a little bit of a fickle process, but I do it anyway. And then some of the other controls I'm using, I move into the group boxes. These group boxes are being used to group controls, and that does affect their behavior, as you'll see later in this video. Now I'm going through each group box and setting the text on those group boxes. I'm also setting a hotkey on them, as you'll see, using the same way I did with labels, where I put an ampersand on the letter that I want to act as the hotkey. Finally, we're getting to the part where we're adding in those additional controls, starting with some combo boxes that'll be part of that combo box group, but more importantly, we'll end up adding in the radio buttons. Each combo box also has a property called items that contains a list of well, the items that you can see in the combo box as a drop-down menu. And so I go ahead and I swipe the text out of my code to fill up the items collection with some default text. I'll discuss this more once I get to looking at the code. I'm adding in an additional combo box to represent whether it's daytime or nighttime, because I think this will display nicer and be easier to code. Finally, I'm adding in the radio buttons. 2 radio buttons carefully positioned within each of the 5 group boxes, and they're all being carefully named according to my naming conventions. And I think that's pretty good. That last thing I did there, right at the last second, was making sure one of those radio buttons is checked. And it's not a terrible thing to do it at runtime, like when the form loads. But I don't know. This is nice. I think it gives you a better sense of what the form's going to look like, too. And so what we got here is group boxes. They're a little kind of squished looking. I don't know about maybe resizing it. I'll look into that. But essentially what's happening here is we've changed the form so that the game style is a combo box so that it can be selected. And when someone picks lock/ignore, what that does is that no longer randomizes that particular aspect of whatever they're doing. I'm just calling it lock kind of internally, but the person can also think of it as ignoring. The game style is important regardless. You can't not have a game style because that helps determine what kinds of parts you can use. So we'll leave that in. And I think I named everything well, but let's have a look at the list. Oh, some of the group boxes I didn't name. I don't know whether programmatically this is going to matter at all, but whatever, let's be consistent. The other thing I did in the course of doing this is every time you've got a combo box, it has a property called items. And the combo boxes, it's worth noting, because you might see this in your Lab 4. The combo boxes have their property called drop-down style, set to drop-down list. They're really, the names of these properties and their values are stupid, incredibly stupid. Drop-down is a combo box that you can select from or write into. And an example of this would be the font in Word or anything like that, or the font size, where there is a drop-down available, but you can also type whatever value you want in there. Drop-down list is the kind where the user doesn't type anything. They can select from the list and that's it. The items property of these things I've set to basically a list of strings, and I wanted them to be presented a little more nicely than the enumeration values or the string value. I guess it's the same as the string values, but I just popped them in here. The really cool thing about the items collection of a combo box is that it's an untyped collection. It's not the same as a list. There's no data type. And that means you can populate a combo box with objects. And what it'll do is it'll cast those objects to a string and display those in the combo box. That could actually be kind of useful if I had like a game style class and a course style class, or if my parts were in combo boxes. I think it's really impractical to consider doing that, just because there's literally hundreds of parts. So I'm not going to take that step, but it is cool to know. You can populate the items property of any list-based control like this. Well, they're not a list, they're a collection. So that's things like a combo box or a list box. and a few other types of controls, I think, weirder ones. And it'll just, if you have data objects, it can store the whole object. Like it can store records of people with names and ages and IDs and whatever attributes of those people you wanted. And it would output them as, if you had like a way of formatting those people as strings, first name, last name, it would write first name, last name in the box. It's very cool. Anyway, we're not going to make much in the way of use of that, but these are all going to have indexes. And I haven't thought too much about how that's going to work, but the randomization is going to be essentially the same. The game style pretty much has to be set. There's going to be a random game style. There's just going to be. So yeah, we'll make that part of the set defaults and we'll run that when the form loads. At this point, I've changed the design. I haven't committed my change. The code will be messed up right now because I've destroyed a couple of very important text boxes. So when I go over to the code, things aren't going to look good anymore. Things are going to look bad, you might say. As for this code, I guess I'm modifying it today. No reason to change any of these values. No reason to change any of these values, I don't think. Again, I could use these arrays to populate the combo boxes. That wouldn't be a terrible thing. I think what I'll do is I'll set that combo box for the game style dot selected index equals 0. And when it does that, what that should do is select the first index. And because I've got the list of items, that's just going to make sure there's always something selected inside that combo box. Of course, there are still some things that are very, very busted right now. Very, very busted. The actual getting of values, that part will be no different at all, frankly. It'll be the output where it's different. So game styles. This is going to be different. The game style is still a value between 0 and 4. And so this is kind of silly, actually. It's going to be silly how normal it is. Selected index. Currently, the indexes of that combo box correspond to the values in the string. They correspond to the values in the enumeration, right? And so I can just set this equal to current game style. I think that's referencing the enumeration. So I'll just cast it to an integer. Just one of these casts will work. And then I'll do the same thing for the course style. It's not a lot less code, but it is surprising. You might think this is more complicated, and it's kind of not. Current course style. Yeah, it's not really less code. If you're looking at those two lines, you're like, this isn't really carrying any benefit. And then I made a combo box for the course style as well, or for the day night. Combo box day night dot selected index equals day should be 0 and night is 1. So day or night. That's kind of weird, but it works. That's an actual integer. And then these parts should still work. Nothing different there. I didn't talk much about the form design while I was doing that, did I? No. The group boxes are an interesting thing. The group boxes treat related, they treat anything inside them as related. And so like these radio buttons, for example, are a part of the game style radio box. At least I'm pretty sure. Hopefully I don't end up eating my words. Let's see what happens when we run this now. Actually, I think we still have a one compiler error. So actually this won't run. Yeah. The compiler error is in the reset button, which I didn't separate out into a method as we've done on our last couple labs. So what's going to happen for the game styles, we're going to go combo box game style dot selected index equals 0 and combo box course style dot selected index equals no, I can do that, right? No? I guess that's fine. You can also blank it. Actually, that might be the right thing to do. Let's see how this behaves. Okay, that clears the errors. Let's see how the UI works. I'm less concerned with the randomizing now and more concerned with the UI. I want to know how my radio buttons are going to behave. I think because I used a lot of copy pasting to facilitate the radio buttons, I might have busted them a bit. Oh no, you can see that they're working the way we expect. Isn't it beautiful? It's all working, and it's using the combo boxes. And let's check for an exclusive part or two just to make sure that part's still working. Super Bell, that only appears in Mario 3D World. Actually, all of these only appear in Mario 3D World. Airship at Night, and Super Mario U, like Super, Acorn, and Propeller Mushroom, oddly, are exclusive to... Did I introduce some kind of weird logical issue? Because the course-specific parts seem really common. Really, really common. What did I do? Oh my god. That's the same randomization. Okay, that's normal. And that one's weird. It keeps getting these three. Well, I'll have to study that. I'll have to give that a good look. There must be some reason that when I go to New Super Mario Bros. U, it always gets these three. Not looking good. We'll see. The others are all normal. Why would that be happening? Something's wrong with Super Mario Bros. U, isn't it? Let's disregard that for now. Like, I know that's an uncomfortable thing to say, but let's disregard that and get things working. So, get things working. Get the UI working the way we want. So the UI is working the way we want, except that the radio buttons don't do anything, if you can't tell. The radio buttons don't do anything. They don't actually allow something to randomize or not, right? So we need to change that behavior. What could be happening with New Super Mario? That's going to leave me preoccupied now. Oh well. When we click reset, let's just really quickly fix how this combo box for the course style is blanked out here. And then we have to change the radio buttons back to their default positions. So for each of them, we're going to say randomize as the default position. So GameStyle.randomize.check. Checked equals true. When I say things like that, it's funny because I believe it's the check event in WPF. I could be misremembering, but I seem to recall that's a little easier. Okay, radio button primary randomize dot checked equals true. Radio button secondary randomize dot checked equals true. Radio button band randomize dot checked equals true. Set all radio buttons to their default checked position. And all that's really left at this point, I think, is adding the piece of logic that'll make it so that it'll randomize the parts if they're set to randomize and ignore the parts if it's set to lock/ignore. So we're just going to do that right in randomize click, where we didn't compartmentalize too many things into functions anyway. I mean, we used get random index, and that's about it. I may have made some changes here between videos, by the way, but nothing that you shouldn't be able to comprehend here. So basically what's going to happen is, and it's going to be processing and output. If we are ignoring the game style, for example, we don't randomize it, we don't output anything. Done. Perfect. You know? So that's basically how it's going to work for every single kind of part. This is nothing different than you haven't seen, hopefully, a whole bunch of times by now. So this is going to be if radio button game style randomize dot checked Then we're going to randomize the game style and store it as an integer, and we may as well do the output now as well too. Okay, cool. And we're going to do similar for all these other ones. If radio button course style randomize dot checked, then we're going to randomize the course style and the day or night status, and we're going to set those two combo boxes accordingly. The comments aren't exactly accurate anymore, but they're pretty close. I'm going to go ahead and not stress about that right now, and maybe apply a minor fix to that after the video if I'm feeling particular about it. If radio button primary part randomize checked, then we randomize the primary part, and we output the randomized primary part. Just like that. You know what else you can do? You could completely... There's another thing we should do in here, it occurs to me, and that is, if someone selects a game style from the drop-down, we need to do all of our other randomization according to the current game style they've picked. And so there needs to be an else statement on here for if we're not randomizing the game style, we need to set the current game style. So current game style, which is a game style, by the way, like that's the data type of the current game style, is going to be set equal to the selected index of the combo box. It's basically the opposite operation. And we need to cast this to a game style similar to what we did above. It looks weird, but it'll work because these enumerations, this game style thing, it's an integer between 0 and 4. So we take this selected index as a value between 0 and 4, we cast it to a game style, and we set that to the current game style. And I might document that a little bit better as well. That's one reason maybe not to do the output, but you know what? I am going to change it. I'm going to do all the output at the end. Here's an edit. Okay, so to run through this logic a little bit, if we're randomizing the game style, randomize the game style. Otherwise, get the random game style, or get the predetermined game style. If we're randomizing the course style, set the course style. If we're randomizing the primary part, randomize the primary part. Like it's just like this, and it's the old logic for the randomization. Nothing new here. Why do I keep saying the word logic? Do programmers even talk that way? What am I doing here? All right. And then here we got the output. It's not text anymore. It's setting a selected index in the combo boxes for these three, but you know, it's pretty close to the same thing. You can in fact set the text property of the combo box. You could do that. And yeah, this is all the same. Let's see how this works. We might run into some issues with new Super Mario Bros. U, as we saw before, and maybe I'll get to the bottom of that shortly. But let's just see if the randomize and lock feature works. So randomize, let's lock the course style, and now it's not changing. Perhaps most excitingly, we can force it to be Super Mario 3. Let's keep going until we get some Mario 3 specific part. What would that be? There's only a couple, really. Frog Suit was right there on the previous one, so yeah. There we go. And if we lock conveyor belt stays in. There we go. Oh, that was quite interesting that it changed one to a Yoshi egg. That's cool. Neat. You maybe should have some piece of code that forces like rotating block here. And if I randomize the game style, it's going to be weird because rotating block is only in Super Mario 3. Suppose I do this. I set it, or sorry, rotating blocks are only in Mario World. If I pick Mario 3 and lock, then this won't be randomized, but this is going to change. Watch. It changes to question mark block just because rotating block is not a valid block in the other styles. Is that a good feature or a bad feature? Is it a feature or is it a bug? Maybe we should say it's okay. I think it's kind of cool. I don't know. I think this is in a great state right now. I do need to fix the nature of Super Mario Bros. U, which is really only pulling up those 3 parts. None of the other ones have that problem. What the heck's going on with Super Mario U? It's only picking, if you'll notice, it's Spike Trap. The Spike Trap's in all of them, so why Spike Trap? Let me look into this and give you an update. Just a sec. Look at this. In one of my debugging steps, I've put in a breakpoint to see the contents of the new Super Mario Bros. U list, and for some reason it is literally... Oh, they all have problems, don't they? This should have much more than 37 parts. SMW parts. Okay, I think I understand what might be happening here. Okay, the problem is here. And this is actually what I was coming to. Is it checks all of the parts for Mario Bros. And Mario 3. And then I use an else if instead of an if here. When you have an else in front of an if, and this is like a week 2 concept now, or possibly a previous semester concept. When you put that word else in there, it only evaluates if the previous conditions aren't met. And so this is the whole problem here is it's only trying to find the unique parts for Mario World, Mario U, and Mario 3D World, which for Mario 3D World hasn't seemed to be that big of an issue. But I think we'll now see things are fixed up a little bit. And by a little bit, I mean a great deal. All right. Every time, we've had a lot of bugs in this process. I've had a lot of bugs in this process. It's not your fault. But here we are. And I think it's useful to know that that kind of thing happens. And we should get some nice randomization for Super Mario Bros. U here. Yeah. That's good. So you can see how this works now, right? If I say I want to make a Mario 3 level, and I really hate underwater levels, who doesn't? Maybe I want to make a really good airship. Mario 3 is known for its airships. A nice day airship level, you know? And I just want to make a level, and I want to base it around some kind of theme. I hit randomize. It says, okay, guess what? Your primary part is Iggy Koopa, who's kind of a minor boss character. He's actually a really fun one. No, wait, I confused him with Lemmy. He is not fun at all. There's nothing interesting about Iggy. So we know that there's... Oh, the lock didn't work, did it? Because it was airship before. Huh, what's up with that? Airship. You see that? Why'd that happen? Why is it always going to Ghost House? Okay, I'll have to fix that also. So there is something else wrong there. Whatever. Less of a big deal. Anyway, there is Iggy and something else, right? And so this is saying like, okay, we're going to make a ghost house. The gimmick is going to be spikes and music blocks together, and we can't use a hammer bro, just in case you wanted a hammer bro in there. Basically a way for me to, if you go back to my first video and think about the purpose of this whole application, this is an elaborate way for me to not interact with my kids. It's going to be great. I'm just kidding. We could have some fun with this. I'll give it to my 9-year-old and see what he does. I think this is a reasonably good application. I think it's been a reasonably good demo. I might make a couple of changes to just the documentation and whatnot, but I think this is pretty good to roll. As for the rest of this course and whether there's going to be another video, I'm thinking no right now. Next we get into like file processing after lists and elaborate menus, and although it'd be pretty easy to add a log or a save button to this or something like that, I don't really see the point. So let me just say we're not going to build on this. If you have ideas, if you want to pull this and add to it, be my guest. In fact, I think that might be admirable. I guess I will fix that thing with the whatever's happening with the course styles. Look at that, it forces it today too. Okay, I'll fix that. This is cool, right? Maybe I will upload one more video just showing us using it. I think that would be valuable. Okay, thank you.